Here is something that nobody at the dealership tells you. Nobody at the designer store tells you. Nobody scrolling past your vacation photos tells you. The person who looks the richest in any room is statistically, overwhelmingly, most likely not the richest person in that room. In fact, there is a very specific and very cruel irony at the heart of modern wealth culture. The more visibly someone is spending on the appearance of wealth, the less actual wealth they are almost certainly building underneath it. The car that signals success is making someone else rich. The apartment in the right neighborhood that signals arrival is consuming the capital that could have compounded into real freedom. The wardrobe, the watches, the restaurants, the carefully curated life that performs prosperity on every platform, all of it has a price tag that goes far beyond the sticker. And that price tag is not just financial. It is temporal. It is psychological. It is the slow, invisible forfeiture of the actual thing everyone is trying to signal that they have. And almost nobody is doing the math on what it is really costing them. Today, we are going to do that math. And I promise you, it is going to make you look at every luxury purchase, yours, mine, everyone's, in a way you will not be able to undo. My name is Mike A., and I have become borderline obsessed with the gap between the appearance of wealth and the reality of it, specifically with how much of modern financial behavior is driven not by genuine desire or genuine need, but by the social performance of a financial status that either does not exist or is being actively eroded by the performance itself. It is one of the most vicious financial cycles I have ever studied. And what makes it so hard to escape is that it does not feel like a trap from the inside. It feels like success. It feels like you are finally living the way you were supposed to live. It feels like reward. And by the time the math catches up with you, by the time the credit card balance and the car payment and the rent that was always slightly too high start making the future feel impossible, the lifestyle has become an identity. And dismantling an identity is infinitely harder than declining a purchase. Let's start with the car, because I think it is the single most financially devastating status symbol in the modern consumer economy, and it deserves to be examined in precise, unflinching detail. The average new car payment in the United States right now is somewhere around $730 a month. Not for a luxury vehicle, for the average car. And the average luxury vehicle payment is well over $1,000 a month. Now let us run that number through the lens of what it actually costs, not just the monthly payment, but the full financial picture. A $730 monthly car payment over a 60-month loan is $43,800 in payments. Add insurance, which runs significantly higher on newer and more expensive vehicles. Add maintenance, fuel, registration. The total cost of ownership on the average new financed vehicle over 5 years is routinely in the range of $50,000 to $60,000. And at the end of those 5 years, what do you have? An asset worth roughly half of what you paid for it, if you were lucky, and probably less. You have spent $50,000 to own something worth $22,000. The other $28,000 gone, not invested, not compounding. Gone, in exchange for the feeling of driving something new and the signal it sent to people in traffic who will never think about you again. Now run that same $50,000 through a compound interest calculator instead. Invested at a reasonable market return over 30 years. The number you get back is somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000. That is the real price of the car, not the sticker price. The opportunity cost of the capital that went into it and never came back. And here is what makes this even more acute. Car status has become one of the most socially normalized forms of financial self-destruction in existence. Everyone has the car payment. Everyone upgrades when the lease is up. Everyone stretches slightly further than they probably should because the monthly payment is manageable if you squint at it the right way. And because it is universal, it feels responsible. It feels like what adults do. But universality is not the same as wisdom, and a behavior being common does not make it financially sound. The most dangerous financial decisions are always the ones that feel normal. Now let us talk about housing, because this is where the hidden cost of looking rich gets genuinely life-altering. There is a concept in personal finance called house poor, the state of owning or renting a home that looks impressive on the outside, while consuming such a large percentage of your income that almost nothing is left for anything else. Building savings becomes impossible. Investing becomes a fantasy. Every unexpected expense becomes a crisis because there is no buffer. The house or the apartment in the right building in the right neighborhood looks like success from every external angle. From the inside, it is a financial straitjacket, and yet people choose it constantly, specifically because of the external angle, because of how it looks to visitors, because of the address on the business card, because of the feeling that living somewhere impressive reflects well on you in a way that is hard to quantify, but feels enormously important. What they are actually buying is the experience of looking like they have made it at the direct financial cost of actually making it. The square footage they are paying for is the performance space for a life that does not quite exist yet, and the rent that funds that performance space is capital that never gets redirected toward the thing that would actually create the security and freedom they are trying to project. Here is a number worth sitting with. If the gap between what someone is paying for their impressive apartment and what a functional, comfortable, but unimpressive apartment would cost them is just $300 a month, just $300, and they invested that difference instead, over 30 years at a reasonable return, that gap becomes somewhere between $350,000 and $400,000. The address upgrade costs them their financial independence. Not figuratively, literally, the math is that direct and that unforgiving. And they made that trade so gradually, so automatically, so socially normally that they never felt themselves making it. Let me introduce a concept here that I want you to carry with you for the rest of this conversation, because I think it reframes everything. It is the concept of the wealth signal versus the wealth vehicle. A wealth signal is anything you spend money on that communicates status, success, or prosperity to the outside world. A wealth vehicle is anything you spend money on that actually builds net worth over time. The crucial, devastating thing about wealth signals is that they are almost universally wealth vehicles in reverse. They do not just fail to build wealth, they actively drain it. Every dollar spent on a wealth signal is a dollar that is not in a wealth vehicle. And over time, over decades, the person who has been accumulating wealth vehicles quietly, invisibly, without any outward signal, and the person who has been accumulating wealth signals loudly and visibly, those two people end up in completely different financial realities. One of them is free. The other one is exhausted from maintaining a performance that has consumed their actual resources. I want to give you a real-world picture of how divergent these two paths actually become. Two people, same starting income, same city, same age. Person A spends on signals the upgraded apartment, the new car every few years, the wardrobe, the restaurants, the lifestyle that looks right. Person B spends on vehicles' modest rent, older reliable car paid in cash, consistent monthly investing. After 20 years, person A has a closet full of things that are worth essentially nothing and a net worth that barely reflects 2 decades of decent income. Person B has an investment portfolio that is producing more money each year than either of them was earning when they started. Same income. Completely different financial reality. Built entirely by what each of them decided to do with the gap between what they earned and what they needed to live. That gap is the most important financial resource most people have, and it is being silently consumed by the performance of a life rather than the building of one. I want to bring this into the specific world of social media for a moment, because I think it has changed the economics of looking rich in a way that is genuinely new and genuinely dangerous. 30 years ago, your social comparison group was roughly limited to the people in your immediate physical world, your neighborhood, your workplace, your friend group. The Joneses you were keeping up with were actual people you knew, living lives with actual constraints similar to yours. Today, your social comparison group is global, curated, and infinite. And the people you are comparing yourself to are not just your neighbors, they are content creators whose entire business model depends on projecting a lifestyle that is as aspirational as possible. They are peers who are selectively posting only the moments that look best. They are brands that have learned to use organic-seeming content to make you feel like a certain product or lifestyle is simply what people like you do. And your brain, ancient, social, wired for comparison, processes all of this as evidence of what normal looks like, what successful looks like, what your own life should look like. And then your spending responds accordingly, not because you made a conscious decision to keep up with anyone, just because the baseline shifted quietly and constantly through thousands of small exposures that recalibrated what felt sufficient. The financial result of this is measurable and it is brutal. Consumer debt in most developed economies is at or near historic highs. Personal savings rates are at or near historic lows, and the correlation between social media usage and impulse spending is documented, consistent, and growing. We are living through a period where the machinery for making people feel financially inadequate and then immediately offering them a purchasable remedy for that inadequacy has never been more sophisticated, more pervasive, or more effective. And the people it is most effectively targeting are often not the people with the least financial self-awareness. They are people who care about how they are perceived, who have some disposable income, and who have absorbed a definition of success that is entirely visual, entirely external, and entirely dependent on continued spending to maintain. Here is the question I want you to genuinely ask yourself, and I want you to answer it honestly rather than reflexively. For every significant purchase you have made in the last year that was not a basic necessity: clothing, tech, furniture, a car, a vacation, a restaurant, an upgrade of any kind, what percentage of the decision was about how that thing would feel to you privately, and what percentage was about how it would look, read, or land to someone else? Not as a judgment, as data. Because if the honest answer is that a meaningful portion of your spending is driven by external perception rather than internal satisfaction, then you are paying a very specific tax, the looking rich tax that is invisible on any receipt, but shows up very clearly over time in the gap between your income and your net worth. And this is where the math becomes genuinely personal and genuinely confronting. Take a person earning $60,000 a year, a reasonable, respectable income. Now imagine they are spending roughly 15% of their after-tax income on wealth signals, things purchased primarily or significantly for their external appearance. That is somewhere around $6,000 to $7,000 a year. Over 10 years, at the opportunity cost of a reasonable investment return, that is not $60,000 or $70,000 lost. That is well over $100,000 of future wealth that was spent performing wealth that was not real yet. The looking rich tax does not just cost you the purchase price. It costs you the compounded future value of every dollar that went into the performance instead of the portfolio. And when you calculate that number honestly across a career, the result is often the difference between financial independence and financial dependence in your later years. I also want to name something that is uncomfortable but important, which is that the looking rich trap is significantly harder to escape when it has become tied to self-worth. For a lot of people, and I think honest self-examination will reveal, this is more common than we like to admit. The things they buy to look successful are not really about other people's perception at all. They are about their own. They are about the version of themselves they see in the mirror when they are wearing the right thing, driving the right car, living in the right place. They are about feeling worthy, feeling like they have made it, feeling like the external markers of success validate something internal that has not yet found another way to be confirmed. And this is where personal finance and psychology genuinely converge. Because no budget or investment strategy alone fixes a self-worth problem. But understanding that the spending is serving an emotional need, that the luxury purchase is often a coping mechanism for inadequacy rather than a celebration of genuine success, is the beginning of being able to meet that need in ways that do not cost you your financial future. The temporary feeling of elevation that comes from buying something expensive is real. I am not dismissing it, but it is temporary. It fades faster than the payment does. And the next purchase has to be slightly larger to produce the same feeling, because the baseline has shifted. This is the hedonic treadmill at its most financially destructive, chasing a feeling with purchases that produce diminishing returns while the cost compounds in the background. Recognizing that cycle, naming it honestly, is not a small thing. For a lot of people, it is the most important financial insight they will ever have. Because you cannot stop a cycle you cannot see. The people who build real wealth, the ones who end up with genuine freedom and genuine options decades from now, share a specific characteristic that has nothing to do with income. They have internalized a definition of success that is not visible to anyone else. Their financial goals are private. Their progress is invisible. Their satisfaction comes from knowing the number in the account rather than from what the account allows them to display. They drive unremarkable cars, not because they cannot afford better ones, but because they have decided that a car is transportation and that the gap between reliable transportation and impressive transportation is not worth what it costs in compounding capital. They live in homes that are comfortable and appropriate, not homes that perform a status they feel pressured to project. They spend freely on things that genuinely enrich their lives, and almost nothing on things that exist purely to impress people whose opinions will not matter in 10 years. This is not deprivation. This is clarity. And that clarity is worth more, financially, than almost any other single characteristic a person can develop. What is remarkable about these people is not that they are disciplined in the punishing, white-knuckle sense of the word. They do not feel like they are holding back. They have simply redefined what winning looks like. Winning is not the car. Winning is not the apartment. Winning is the number on the net worth statement that nobody else can see. Winning is the morning you wake up and realize that your money is generating more income than you need to live on. Winning is the option to walk away from things that do not serve you because you are not financially trapped by the lifestyle you built. That is the prize. And the people who keep their eyes on that prize, rather than the visible proxies for it, are the ones who eventually collect it. So here is the challenge I want to leave you with, not a budget or a spending cut list, but a genuine question to sit with. What in your current financial life exists primarily as a signal rather than a vehicle? What are you paying for that serves your image more than your life? What would change about your spending, and more importantly, about your net worth trajectory if you quietly, privately, decided to stop paying the looking rich tax and redirect that capital toward actually becoming rich instead? The answer to that question is different for everyone, but the act of asking it honestly is where everything starts to shift. Because here is the truth that cuts through all of it. Nobody who is actually wealthy is impressed by the signals. They know what the signals cost. They know what that capital could have been doing instead. The audience you are performing for either does not notice or cannot afford to care. And the version of yourself you are trying to validate through the performance will never actually feel validated by it. Because external things have never fixed internal gaps. Not once. Not for anyone. The only scoreboard that matters is the one only you can see. And the question is whether what is on it reflects your values or someone else's. If this conversation hit somewhere real for you, if it made you rethink even one purchase or one pattern, then subscribe. This is what I do here. Honest, sharp, no-filler conversations about the real psychology of money and what it actually takes to build something lasting. New videos every week. Hit subscribe right now and stay in it. And if you want to see exactly what redirecting even a small amount of that wealth signal spending into a wealth vehicle actually produces over time, the next video will show you precisely that. We are talking about why everything changes when you invest just $100 a month. The compounding math, the psychological shift, the identity change that happens when you become someone who invests rather than someone who performs. The numbers will genuinely surprise you. It is right there on your screen. Click it, and let's keep going.